The question of how America goes to war reveals the complex balance of power between the president and Congress. In theory, the U.S. Constitution establishes a system of checks and balances to prevent rash or unilateral military action. However, in practice, the process has evolved into a nuanced interplay between legal authority, political will, and global realities. The U.S. Constitution divides war powers between the executive and legislative branches. Article 1 grants Congress the power to declare war, raise and support armies, and regulate the military. Article 2 designates the president as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. This dual authority was designed to ensure no single branch could unilaterally lead the nation into conflict. However, this structure often creates ambiguity about who truly has the final say. Historically, formal declarations of war by Congress have been rare. The last time Congress officially declared war was during World War II against Japan, Germany, and their allies. Since then, the U.S. has engaged in numerous military conflicts, such as Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, without formal declarations of war. Instead, Congress often authorizes the use of military force through resolutions, giving the president significant latitude. The Korean War was a pivotal moment in shifting how America enters conflicts. When North Korea invaded South Korea in 1950, President Truman framed the U.S. intervention as a police action under the United Nations, bypassing the need for congressional approval. This set a precedent for presidents to act unilaterally under the guise of international agreements or executive authority. The Vietnam War further complicated the process. President Lyndon B. Johnson escalated U.S. involvement based on the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which granted broad powers to respond to perceived threats in Southeast Asia. However, the war's unpopularity and its dubious legal basis spurred calls for greater congressional oversight. In 1973, Congress passed the War Powers Resolution to reclaim some authority over military actions. This law requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying troops into hostilities and limit such actions to 60 days without explicit congressional approval. While the resolution aims to check presidential power, its effectiveness remains debated. Many presidents have either ignored its provisions or interpreted them narrowly, arguing that it infringes on the executive branch's authority. The post-9/11 era marked another shift in how America goes to war. The Authorization for Use of Military Force, AUMF, passed in 2001, granted the president sweeping powers to combat terrorism globally. This resolution has been used to justify military actions in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and beyond. Critics argue that the AUMF gives the president a virtual blank check to wage endless war without meaningful congressional input. President George W. Bush's decision to invade Iraq in 2003 highlights the complexities of this process. While Congress approved the invasion through a resolution, the decision was based on controversial intelligence about weapons of mass destruction. The war's aftermath raised questions about the extent of congressional oversight and the accuracy of the information used to justify conflict. The president's role as commander-in-chief provides significant unilateral powers, particularly in the early stages of conflict. For instance, presidents can deploy troops for limited engagements, conduct airstrikes, and authorize covert operations without immediate congressional approval. This flexibility is crucial in emergencies but can also lead to overreach. Modern technology further complicates the dynamic. Drone warfare, cyber attacks, and special operations allow the president to engage in military actions that blur the line between war and peace. These tools often fall outside traditional definitions of hostilities, allowing presidents to act with minimal oversight. Despite the president's significant power, Congress retains critical tools to influence military actions. The power of the purse is perhaps the most potent. By controlling military funding, Congress can effectively limit or end conflicts, as it did during the Vietnam War. Additionally, congressional hearings, public debates, and media coverage can shape public opinion and pressure the executive branch. Public sentiment plays a crucial role in shaping how America goes to war. Presidents often seek public support to justify military actions, knowing that sustained opposition can undermine their efforts. For example, President Obama sought congressional approval for airstrikes in Syria in 2013, partly due to lukewarm public support for another Middle Eastern conflict. The Supreme Court also occasionally weighs in, though its role is limited. For instance, during the Vietnam War, cases like Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company versus Sawyer clarified the limits of executive power. emphasizing that the president cannot act without congressional authority in certain contexts. The interplay between the president and Congress reflects broader debates about America's role in the world. Proponents of strong presidential authority argue that the executive branch must act swiftly and decisively in a dangerous world. Critics counter that unchecked presidential power risks entangling the nation in costly and unpopular conflicts. Ultimately, the process of going to war is as much about politics and public opinion as it is about constitutional principles. Presidents often navigate a complex web of domestic and international pressures, balancing the need for decisive action with the risk of overreach. Meanwhile, Congress grapples with its dual role of supporting the executive branch while safeguarding its authority to declare war. As America faces new challenges, from great power competition with China and Russia to emerging threats like cyber warfare and climate-related conflicts, the debate over war powers will continue to evolve. Striking the right balance between presidential flexibility and congressional oversight remains critical to ensuring that military actions reflect both the nation's values and its strategic interests.